Emma Parker, a young executive assistant with a strong and independent personality, found herself in a whirlwind of contrasting emotions. Initially reluctant to become involved with her boss, Damien Taylor, she now found herself increasingly immersed in this complex and forbidden relationship. Every gesture from Damien, every unexpected gift, seemed to weave a thicker and denser web around her heart. It was a fall afternoon, and Emma was in her apartment, a space Damien had given her. The place was filled with small reminders of their relationship, a vase of vibrant red roses he had sent, boxes of fine chocolates on the coffee table, and a series of cards with affectionate words. Emma sat on the couch, holding one of these cards, reading and rereading the words Damien had written in elegant handwriting. To my dearest Emma, whose smile lights up my darkest days, with love, Damien. She sighed, setting the card aside. Why does it have to be so complicated? She murmured to herself. With each passing day, Emma fell more in love with Damien, and she knew she couldn't endure this hidden romance for much longer. That night, while dining in an intimate and dimly lit restaurant, Emma confronted Damien. You shower me with gifts, Damien, but all of this? It's just gestures. What are we really to each other? She asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Damien, momentarily lost in thought, reached for Emma's hand. I know it's complicated, Emma, but every gesture, every gift, is an expression of what I feel for you, he said, his eyes searching hers. But where does this lead us, Damien? I feel like I'm living in a fantasy world, a bubble that could burst at any moment, Emma replied, vulnerability clear in her voice. Damien sighed, letting go of her hand. I wish things were simpler, Emma. You mean so much to me, more than I ever expected. But I'm trapped in a situation I don't know how to resolve, he admitted, the honesty in his words mixed with a hint of desperation. Emma looked away, lost in thought. Damien's constant attention made her feel special, even loved, but at the same time she knew she was treading on dangerous ground. Her feelings for Damien grew with each passing day, but uncertainty about the future of their relationship, the legitimacy of her feelings, and fear of the unknown haunted her. It was like sailing in uncharted waters with no compass to guide her. Damien Taylor, a man of power and influence, lived a fragmented reality. On one hand, he was the respected businessman, a leader in the New York business community, married to the elegant and sophisticated Victoria Taylor. On the other, he concealed a secret life, engaged in an illicit relationship with his assistant, Emma Parker. Victoria, with her impeccably styled hair and designer clothes, epitomized the elite wife. Her days were filled with visits to exclusive boutiques, high-class beauty salons, and lunches with high society friends. She floated in a world of privilege, extravagance, and appearances, unaware of her husband's dual life. On a cold winter night, Damien was at home, sitting in the vast and ornate living room of his mansion, contemplatively gazing at the crackling fire in the fireplace. Victoria, adorned with her sparkling jewelry, approached him with an elegant smile. Damien, darling, you seem troubled. Is everything okay with the company? She asked, her voice soft and concerned. He turned, forcing a smile. Everything's fine, dear. Just some complicated matters at work, Damien replied, concealing his true thoughts. Victoria sat beside him, lightly touching his arm. You know you can count on me for anything, right? We are a team, she said, offering comfort devoid of suspicion. Damien looked at her, his mind divided. I know, Victoria, and I appreciate that, he said, but his thoughts were far away with Emma. On a rainy spring afternoon, Emma Parker found herself in a state of growing desperation, driven by the confusion and uncertainty surrounding her relationship with Damien Taylor. Sitting in a small cafe, her fingers wrapped around a still steaming cup of coffee, she waited for Damien, determined to confront him about the nature of their relationship. When Damien arrived, his typically confident demeanor seemed slightly shaken by the rain and the anticipation of what was to come. He sat across from Emma, his gaze restless. Emma, you seem worried. What's going on? Damien asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. Emma took a deep breath, mustering her courage. "Damien, we can't continue like this. I need more. I need to know if this is real, if you have serious intentions with me," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. Damien hesitated, his eyes shifting to the window, watching the rain. "Emma, you know how I feel about you, but leaving my wife, it's not that simple," he began, his words carefully chosen. "Not simple, or you don't want to," Emma interrupted, her frustration evident. "I'm exposing myself here, Damien. I'm asking for a real commitment, something more than secret meetings and occasional gifts." Damien looked at her, his eyes reflecting a whirlwind of emotions. I'm torn, Emma. I have responsibilities, a life I've built with Victoria. It's not easy to give all of that up," he replied, pain and conflict evident in his voice. Emma felt a mix of anger and sadness. "So, what am I to you? A pastime? A distraction?" she asked, tears starting to well up in her eyes. "No, never that," Damien said quickly, reaching out. But Emma pulled her hand away. "You mean a lot to me, more than you can imagine. But I just don't know how to resolve this." Emma stood up, despair giving way to determination. "Well, maybe it's best for us to end it here. I can't keep being the other woman, Damien. I deserve more than that." Damien fell silent, his expression a mix of regret and helplessness. Emma, with a heavy heart, left the cafe, leaving behind a confused and vulnerable Damien, trapped in his own theater of emotions. As the rain fell outside, Emma walked through the streets, feeling each drop as a reminder of the uncertain path ahead. If you were Emma, would you have done this? Would you have ended it with Damien? Or would you have continued to be the mistress? Will Victoria not find out about this affair? And will Damien ask Emma to come back or not? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We want to know your opinion. On a cold winter night, Emma Parker found herself sitting in her apartment, absent-mindedly gazing at the city lights twinkling through the window. Her thoughts were immersed in the complexity of her relationship with Damien Taylor. Even after breaking up, she knew it wasn't as simple as that. The phone rang, breaking the silence of her reverie. It was Damien. "Emma, I know things have been complicated lately," Damien began, his voice conveying a mixture of anxiety and hope. "But I have a surprise that might give us a break from all of this." Emma, somewhat skeptical, replied. "A surprise, Damien? What are you planning now? What do you think about a weekend at a ski resort in Sochi, just the two of us away from it all?" Damien proposed, enthusiasm in his voice. Emma fell silent for a moment, surprised by the suggestion. "Sochi? In Russia? Damien, that's unexpected," she said, her voice tinged with curiosity and hesitation. "Yes, I know, it's a bit extravagant, but think about it, Emma. It'll be an opportunity for us to escape, to be together without all these complications, to talk and maybe figure things out," Damien explained, almost as if he were trying to convince himself as much as her. Emma pondered the proposal. The idea of a romantic getaway was tempting, a welcome contrast to the reality of their secretive and tumultuous relationship. "And what about your wife, Damien? How are you going to explain this to her? There's a business conference in Moscow at the same time. I'll extend the trip. She won't suspect anything," Damien said, his voice confident, but Emma could detect a hint of uncertainty. "I'll think about it, Damien," Emma replied, a mix of excitement and reservation in her voice. "I understand, Emma, and we'll talk, I promise. But for now, let's just enjoy this moment," Damien said. Emma hung up the phone, feeling a wave of conflicting emotions. On one hand, there was the anticipation of a romantic adventure in an exotic location. On the other, the reality of her relationship with Damien continued to weigh on her. As she looked out into the night, the idea of a weekend in Sochi gleamed like a glimmer of hope amid the complexity of her feelings. Emma's heart raced, echoing the hesitation that consumed her mind. She had never skied before, and the idea of descending snow-covered mountains was as strange as it was terrifying. Days passed, and Damien visited Emma in her apartment. "Emma, you'll love Sochi," Damien said with an encouraging smile. "It's a perfect getaway, and don't worry about skiing, I can teach you." She looked up at him, her expression a mix of uncertainty and hidden desire. "Damien, I don't know," she began, her voice trembling. "It's not just the skiing, it's all of this. Us. It's getting more complicated by the day." Damien stepped closer, holding her hands in his. "Emma, I know it's complicated. But we need this time together, away from everything. We deserve it. To sort things out." Emma felt the warmth of his hands and the sincerity in his eyes. For a moment she allowed herself to envision the trip, the two of them together in a world apart, far from the complexities of their lives in New York. But reality quickly asserted itself, bringing a flood of doubts and fears. "Damien, what if this only makes things worse?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "What if we get even more involved, and what if we can't go back from where we've come?" He looked at her deeply, searching for the right words. "Emma, I can't promise that everything will be simple," he admitted, "but what I have with you, it's real. More real than anything I've ever felt. I don't want to lose it out of fear of what may or may not happen." With a deep sigh, Emma lifted her eyes again to Damien. "I still need to think," she said, her voice firm but small. "I need to understand what this means to me." Damien nodded, slowly releasing her hands. "Of course, Emma. Take all the time you need. I'll be waiting." Emma watched Damien walk away. She felt torn between the desire to escape with him and the fear of the unknown, both in the mountains of Sochi and in her own heart. Emma sat by the window, her gaze lost in the urban tapestry of New York down below. The city, with its glittering lights and bustling streets, seemed oblivious to the turmoil in her mind. In her hands, a small gift that Damien had given her that morning, a delicate pearl necklace, was a symbol of both affection and the complexity of their relationship. She allowed her thoughts to wander, reflecting on every moment shared with Damien, every gesture of affection, every secret exchange of glances. The care and attention he devoted to her were undeniable, but there was a price to pay, a price that took a toll on her dignity and self. "Is this really love, or just a comfortable illusion?" she whispered to herself, her voice nearly lost in the silence of the apartment. Emma's reflection in the window glass seemed to judge her, questioning her choices, her worth. "I deserve more than being the other woman," she continued, her words gaining strength. "I deserve to be someone's choice, not just a convenient escape." The memory of Damien's smile and whispered promises flooded her mind, trying to soften her doubts. "He says he cares," she pondered, "that I'm special. But if I truly am, why are we still hiding in the shadows?" She stood up, pacing restlessly through the apartment. Am I underestimating myself? Accepting breadcrumbs when I deserve the whole feast? The questions echoed, unanswered. 2 days later, in Damien's office, tense silence hung in the air as Emma stood before him. I accept," Emma said, her voice almost a whisper. "Let's go to Sochi." Damien, seated behind his mahogany desk, looked up, surprised. "Are you sure?" he asked, a trace of concern in his voice. "I don't want you to feel like you're being pressured into this." Emma walked to the window, watching the city outside. "I need this, Damien. We need this," she replied, turning to face him. "A chance to figure out what we truly are, together." Damien got up, approaching her. "I understand," he said softly. "And I'm glad you've agreed, but Emma, we need to talk about us, about what this means." She nodded, her eyes meeting his. "Yes, we do. In Sochi, we'll decide whether we continue, or if it ends." The air between them was filled with unspoken emotions, with unanswered questions. Damien reached out, gently touching her arm. "Whatever the outcome, I want you to know that what we've had has been real to me," he said sincerely. Emma felt a lump in her throat. "To me too, Damien, to me too." Silence settled in once more, but it was a silence filled with promises and possibilities. They looked at each other knowing that the trip to Sochi would be more than just a getaway. It would be a moment of truth, a turning point in their intertwined lives. Emma picked up the invitation again, reading the words with renewed determination. "Let's go to Sochi," she repeated, stronger this time. "Let's find our answers." Damien nodded, a wistful smile on his lips. "Let's find our answers," he echoed, knowing that whichever path they chose, nothing would be the same after Sochi. The trip to Sochi, a city blanketed in eternal snow, felt like a fairy tale. Emma and Damien arrived at the ski resort, an isolated paradise from the rest of the world. The cold air kissed their skin, but inside them, a flame of anticipation burned. "It's beautiful here, isn't it?" Emma said, wrapping herself tighter in her coat as they gazed at the scenery from the balcony of their hotel room. Snow fell gently, covering everything with a layer of pure magic. Damien, beside her, smiled. "It is, but not as beautiful as you," he replied, his affectionate gaze on her. "I'm glad you came." They spent the day skiing, laughing, and falling together in the soft snow. It was as if they were the only two people in the world, free from the burdens and complications of their real lives. In the evening, they sat in front of the fireplace in the warmth of the chalet, with glasses of red wine in hand. "I never thought I'd be here like this with you," Emma confessed, watching the flames dance. "All of this feels like a dream." Damien placed his glass on the table and turned to her, his face serious. "Emma, I need to say something. Let's live this, and on the last day we talk. I still don't know what to do. I hope you understand." Then Emma hugged him and they stayed there together without saying a single word. The day of departure from Sochi arrived faster than they wished. Emma and Damien sat on the terrace of the resort, looking out at the snow mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see, the morning sun reflected in their empty coffee cups. As silence hung between them, Damien began breaking the tense silence. "We need to talk about what will happen when we return." She nodded, her eyes meeting his. "Yes, we do." He sighed deeply. "I've made a decision, Emma. I can't leave my wife." The words hit Emma like a blow. She had prepared herself for this possibility, but it still hurt. "I understand, Damien," she said sadly. "You have a life and commitments that can't be ignored." He looked at her, gratitude in his eyes. They hugged, knowing that this was a painful farewell. Damien would return to his double life, his wife and his obligations. Emma, on the other hand, knew it was time to make a choice as well. When they returned home, Emma resigned from her job at the company. It was time to move on, to start over. She found a new job in a small bookstore where her passion for literature and books filled her. It was there that she met someone special, a kind man with eyes that sparkled when he talked about his favorite stories, Roger, and they shared laughter, deep conversations, and a connection that was unlike anything Emma had experienced before. Over time, she realized that love could be simple, not filled with secrets and complications. She was happy, finally finding what she had always wanted, someone to live a life with, but this time, not in the shadows, but in the light for everyone to see. And in the end, the plot of her life, filled with infidelity, moral dilemmas, and complexities, had led to a new beginning full of hope and happiness. That was our journey for today. To not miss the next ones, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. A big hug, and until the next story.